Here's the car here with the body removed. We're not going to be able to get the independent steering set up unless you remodify this whole thing. Well, what you got to do is you got to cut off as much of this as you can to get this as far back as possible to match the tumbler. There was these plastic things on the side. I already cut those off, but there's some screws right here. There's a little thing here to adjust the steering. So this is pretty much as far as we can cut off. So I'm going to cut that off. Takes a while, but you get that cut like that to look more like the front of the tumbler. Get this part in closer to the wheels. These wheels are permanently attached, so there's no way to take it off to modify it. And I'm going to have to figure out something for the rear wheels, because they're obviously a lot bigger than the front wheels. So it would be up a little bit like this. I took one of the wheels off the car, and I just traced it out like this. And I'm going to use that as a reference. I have a picture of the tumbler on my screen right here. I'm going to start with the driver's side wheel. I'm going to use the wheel as a baseline, and then I'm going to start drawing that, I'm not sure what it's called, the side fender or whatever that goes around here. It connects to the wheel. I'm going to draw that out, and I'm going to draw that out on this sheet of aluminum. This is flashing aluminum. It's pretty cheap. Now I think I'm only going to make certain areas of the car out of aluminum and others out of cardboard, because using all this aluminum, even though aluminum's light, it might get pretty heavy. So you do this, and then you take the picture. Now that thing comes to about here on the wheel. And it comes up like this. Now remember, when you draw this, you got another point here where it's bent. So after I cut this out, I have to bend this. Might not have enough room here because then this plate bends over to go by the front windshield. Like this. You just want to draw this out here because when you cut it out, then you can bend it. That should be long enough, I hope. Otherwise, I'll be doing this again. That's pretty much it for the first piece. You don't have to worry about the fine details unless you want to. There is this, like, not sure what it is, some kind of yellow part here. I'm probably just going to paint that in. I'm not going to try to replicate that 100%. So now you just get some tin snips and cut this out. Be very careful not to cut yourself. This is sharp. If you don't want to use the aluminum, you can get cardboard. I'm using aluminum because this will give it a little strength here when you're driving it around in case it crashes into something. There's the first piece. Now you want to look at it, and here's the first piece. Now you want to look at the picture, kind of put it on your car. It's going to go on kind of like this around the wheel about here. And you have to look at how it's bent. So now we need to start bending it. Should be able to do this by hand. If you can't, you can get, actually, you know what, I'm going to get some pliers so that way it bends more evenly. Bend this with pliers, but don't bend it too much because this aluminum will actually snap if you bend it too far because it's so thin. And the bend in that picture isn't that much anyways. Start to bend it like that. Now this is kind of tricky because it kind of bends this way now. Just do this the best you can. It's not going to be perfect. Actually, the way that bent, I bent this, I might not even have to adjust this piece here. That's going to go over the windshield. That'll eventually be put in. Now, I'm not doing this to scale. I'm just cutting these out the best I can. And what you want to do is use this piece as a guideline to make the piece for the other side, so that way they're the same length. The other side's pretty much the same exact thing. It's just taking this and flipping it backwards. So I'll do the same process for the other side. I'll make sure I make it out as long as this piece is, and these are right too here. And then I'll put it on the other side. Now, since these wheels aren't going to operate the same way that the actual tumbler does, we have to figure out some way to attach this here just so it gives it that look, like it's holding the wheel on to the car. And obviously, yeah, the wheels don't make sense because there's no chrome rims on the tumbler, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave that, give it its own little unique look. So you want to get it pretty close, but not to where it's going to stop the wheel from turning. And this rubber, I don't know, it's not on here right. So the rubber tire's not on properly. I mean, this is pretty cool though for a little $10 RC car. And it has a little turbo boost button, which actually works, and it suits this purpose because the tumbler does have the little rocket engine in the back, or the jet engine in the back, so that you can use that little boost when you're playing with it, pretend like you're taking off, doing jumps and stuff like in the movies. I took some of the scrap aluminum and rolled it up like this, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to put it. I'm gonna have to glue this and then come back later and cut it to make it shorter to get it closer to the wheel. So I'm taking this piece here and trying to figure out where it needs to go so I can glue it in the right spot. I want it to go over the wheel about there. Try to hold it if you can, and you gotta have this up at an angle, slight angle. So you want to glue the thing about here. You want to mark that. So now you know where to glue it, and you just go and glue it. You want to make sure that the wheels can still turn with this piece here. It's going to be better to take this and put it further back. When you get the sides glued, put them in their spot. And then you got to see if this, when you use the steering, if it's gonna interfere. See, the wheel's turning nice. Turns nice both ways and it doesn't touch. So this side looks like we're good. Check the other side. Looks like we're good. Now you're just going to position these pieces and glue them in. That goes on here. Looks like that. What I'm going to do is, this up here isn't perfect. I didn't draw exactly how many of those little things there are. I'm just trying to make this look very close to the original. Gonna cut this out with the tin snips. Break that off. Gonna cut this as close as I can with the tin snips, trying not to break it because you want to keep it one piece. Now I'm going to get the drill and use it to cut this. Be very careful doing this. You don't want to cut your hands. I had to put the drill in reverse to be able to cut into this thing because the cutting wheel wasn't working good going clockwise. Got this part cut out. It's gonna kind of go like that. This is the part that goes below it. I just drew this and I'm gonna cut it out. And to mimic that tint stuff that's on the windshield, I'm just going to use some of this packing tape. Looks pretty close to the real color. This is just a piece of cardboard, and these two are pretty much going to go together like that. And that's going to go right here. I'm going to position that on here best I can according to the pictures I got. Here's the piece cut out. Looks pretty good. I put some super glue on both sides to make it stiffer. Now I'm going to paint both pieces black. Going to give it a few coats of black paint. Give it a few coats of black paint, let it dry, and then go back to the vehicle and start gluing it on. According to the picture, there's a little black box in here, so I'm going to use electrical tape to create that box. You can do this whatever way you want. It doesn't have to be exactly the way I do it. Next, you need to draw out the plates that go under here like this. Start with the left one. Actually, I already see it. Wait, never mind. Just draw it out best you can. And I have to make some bends in this thing. Draw it out to here. Right there is where you gotta make your bend. This part goes underneath here, so you won't see it. It'll be tied up against this piece here. Just kind of guess what that'll look like. Come over here a little bit. Draw this cut. Once you cut this out and actually put it in here, you can cut it shorter and adjust it if you have to. I think this one's going to be too big. Like there's a cut here in it. Just cut it out now. It's gonna kind of go there and end right next to the middle piece. This piece here we're going to have to cut a lot smaller. So look, something like this. Here's the tumbler so far. I used the Dremel tool to cut out 4 pieces of steel wire. Where these cuts are, there's shocks. There's 2 shocks like this that are next to each other, and then I'll have to make some kind of a piece to connect them together. You can see that in the picture. When you pull up a picture of it, there's 2 shocks up there and they're connected to each other. Those are just going to be inserted in here like this, next to each other. I'm going to use a small black zip tie to connect the 2 fake shocks together. Make sure after each of the fake shocks you leave a little space, because there's a little space in the picture. It goes beyond the shocks a little bit. And when the glue dries, you might have to cut it to make adjustments. Let them sit there to dry. Then make the second one. While you're waiting for that glue to dry, there's some more body panels that go up here on each side that we can start to work on. And then that one in the middle here that goes in between the windshields. Need to position another piece of cardboard aluminum here. This comes up a little too far because of the way the car is made. This is really supposed to be down lower to line up with these plates here, but this model's not going to be 100% perfect. So we're going to glue that in there like that, and then later paint it black. And then there's another plate here we got to make. Then we can start working on the actual door, if you want to call it a door, that opens up like this. And then in here is where you sit. Got the shocks installed. put a small piece of aluminum under the two shock things like this, and put the aluminum under here to go over that hole so that it supports it while the glue dries.